George Washington. Who was George Washington? Surveyor, General, first U.S. President. George Washington was born almost 300 years ago on February 22, 1732, in Virginia. George had 5 brothers and sisters. Sometimes George went to school, and sometimes he learned by studying on his own or with teachers who came to his home. When he was 16 years old, George finished his education and became a surveyor, which is someone who measures land. At the age of 20, George Washington became a leader in a small special army called a militia. Once, he led a group of soldiers in an attack on an enemy fort. People respected him for his bravery and leadership. After Washington left the army, he married Martha Custis, a widow with 2 children. They moved to his home and farm at Mount Vernon in Virginia. Washington was very proud of his farm, and he liked being a landowner. At that time, Virginia was not a state, because the United States did not exist yet. Virginia was a colony, a place where people from a country called Great Britain came to live. That meant the rulers of Great Britain could tell the people in Virginia and the other colonies what to do. People who lived in the colonies, who were called colonists, had to pay money to the British government. The colonists thought that the amount of money they were paying was unfair. The colonists tried talking to the British leaders about the problem, but that didn't work. So the colonists and Great Britain fought a war. We call that war the American Revolution. Washington became the leader of the American army. He taught his men how to be soldiers. Even when it seemed that the colonists would lose the war, he kept his army together and continued to fight. One night, Washington led his men across the Delaware River in the middle of a snowstorm to attack a group of enemy soldiers. The enemy soldiers were so surprised that they lost the battle to Washington and his army. With help from the government of the country of France, the colonists won the war. That made it possible for them to create their own new country, which they called the United States of America. The new country needed a leader. Some people wanted to make General Washington the king, but he refused. He wanted the country to have leaders who were chosen by the people. So the people of the United States voted, and George Washington was elected as the first president of the United States. George Washington was a great American leader, both during the American Revolution and as the first president of the new country. That's why Americans often call him the father of our country. Today, George Washington's leadership and courage are still honored in many ways. The capital city of the United States is called Washington. There is a state named after George Washington, too. His face appears on both the $1 bill and the quarter, and it is even carved into the side of Mount Rushmore in the state of South Dakota. So no matter where people live in the United States, they are reminded of their first president and all he did for their nation.